I know I need to build the muscle, like going to the gym. I need to build the muscle of creating content. I need to get used to the process and the routine of creating and putting out content regularly to establish my expertise in my field and to also help level up the industry. So, I try to make my content educational. I try to make it entertaining and fun. I try to bring a viewpoint that is unique to me because, of course, my 24 years of experience in the industry is a kind of a unique lens on the news and punditry of our industry. And I've learned through my consulting engagements.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. There are challenges at every turn when it comes to managing a private practice. With Alma, clinicians get the support they need to focus on what matters most, delivering great mental health care. When you become a member at Alma, you'll get credentialed with major insurance payers in less than 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. Plus, you can take advantage of HIPAA-compliant EHR tools like intake forms, progress notes, and treatment planners. Visit helloalma.com/Kim to learn more. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. Really excited to have a different type of guest here with us today, Jason Greenwood. He's got a lot of information to share with us. He's not a therapist, but he is an expert in being a digital nomad and also running a business while you're on the road. So he has a lot of great tips to tell us about today. Particularly what I'm interested in is the branding piece. Jason, I'm glad to have you here. I'll let you introduce yourself in a sec. I'm just excited to talk about how we as therapists can brand our private practices, which are our businesses. We're all entrepreneurs running these small businesses or sometimes huge businesses if we're group practice owners. And how do we brand it? And how do we keep our lifestyle going and do all of that at the same time? So, Jason, welcome to the podcast. Please share about yourself. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Then let's dive into your tips and tricks to do this on the road.
Love it. Thank you, Kim. It's so nice to be a guest on your podcast. And as you rightly point out, I am not a therapist, but I am a digital nomad. I've now lived in 3 countries around the world, currently living in beautiful Puebla, Mexico, which is about 2 hours southeast of Mexico City. I actually grew up in Southern California. And then in my early 20s, my family moved to New Zealand, and I lived in New Zealand for almost 30 years, 28 years. My wife is a Kiwi from New Zealand. My brother-in-law is a Kiwi from New Zealand. My grandfather was a Kiwi, so that's the connection with New Zealand. My sister, my brother-in-law, my 2 nephews, and my mom all live in Brisbane, Australia now. Your audience may not know, with a New Zealand passport, you can live in Australia and vice versa. If you've got an Australian passport, you can live in New Zealand. And so they live over there. And look, I guess from my perspective, I have wanted to be fully location independent in my career. It's always been of mine. My wife and I are huge travelers, and I don't know how much your audience knows about New Zealand in terms of how they handled COVID, but it was one of the most locked down countries in the entire world.
I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that. And I wondered, it was locked down way after other countries were totally open, right? Oh my gosh. Were you there during COVID or you were? Oh my gosh.
And that was one of the reasons that prompted to decide to move out of New Zealand was how New Zealand handled COVID. And we were locked down for effectively 3 years. And the border was closed and you could get out, but you couldn't get back in because the required quarantine was a lottery. You actually had an online lottery to get a place in their quarantine for 14 days when you came back to New Zealand. And they only had a very, very limited number of places in quarantine. And so we knew if we left New Zealand, we wouldn't be able to get back in again, at least anytime soon. And so we were effectively locked down in our country for about 3 years. And so we were lots of other reasons we wanted to move out of New Zealand, but that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
And in order to be able to do that, I needed to be able to run my business fully remotely. And luckily, the one silver lining of COVID, one of the upsides of COVID, was the fact that customers who maybe previously expected to at least meet me one time in person before they signed on the dotted line, that expectation went away. Like we've always, working in the digital space as an e-commerce consultant and having run and built agencies and worked inside brands, we could always do what we do remotely, but customers didn't necessarily always think that. But COVID kind of put paid to that because everybody got used to doing everything on Zoom, Google Meet, Teams. They got used to doing everything remotely. And that's the silver lining out of COVID for me, was that now I could easily take on clients all around the world, and they had zero expectation they would ever meet me in person. Now, luckily, I've been able to meet some of those clients in person when I'm visiting their country or in their neighborhood. Then I'll go out of my way to go and visit them in person, but they have no expectation that they'll meet me in person. So that was the silver lining of COVID for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same for therapists. I mean, some of us, I was already online, but it was like really kind of taboo still. And then once COVID hit, now it's like nothing. I mean, it's just the norm, for a lot of therapists now. So, and for a traveling therapist, I mean, it opened up a whole new world. Like I literally never have to have an office again. Thank God. I can literally be anywhere in New Zealand if I want to and still see my clients just the same as I could at home. So yeah, that's been a really big game changer for therapists in general, in every business, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're a builder or you're doing something that requires, we're a bit fortunate, I guess. If you're a knowledge worker and you can do what you do online and you can deliver services, really just visually, that's really all that is required is a visual communication medium and obviously audio. We're very blessed to be able to do what we do because there are so many people in their industries requires them to do that work physically in person. So yeah, I definitely consider myself blessed and lucky to be able to do what I do remotely for sure.
Yes. Love it. So tell us about it. Like, where do we start? If first of all, with the branding piece, a lot of therapists really struggle with that. Like, how do I brand? How do I market my private practice? And then add on to it, gosh, I might have a different background every single day, or, I might just like have a different time zone, or I might have to all of a sudden change your appointments that were at 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we're going to have to be adaptable to that. So how does a therapist work with that stuff and then brand, even if they're branding like the lifestyle that they're nomadic with their business? Like, how does somebody go about that? What's the thought? What do you do about it?
Yeah, my advice to anybody who is trying to build a personal brand and then business kind of off the backside of that personal brand is to do exactly what Gary Vee kicked my ass enough times through his content, which is, his advice is, first of all, build a personal brand before you need it, before you need to monetize it. Second of all, build an audience that actually wants to hear from you before you need to monetize them. And then third, if you think you're a thought leader, put your thoughts out there and let the market decide whether you are or you aren't. So I was into Gary Vee, and it's going back about to go, and I was listening to him pretty religiously, and I just got sick of him beating in my ear, if you think you're a thought leader, put your thoughts out there and let the market decide. And I just heard that enough times that I was like, okay, I get it, Gary Vee. I need to be putting out content. I was actually an employee. I was actually working inside of a brand at that time as e-commerce manager and director for the company. And so when I first started creating content, it wasn't like I was trying to add business, or it wasn't like I was trying to build a personal brand so that I could immediately monetize it. That wasn't the goal. The goal was, okay, I know I need to build the muscle, like going to the gym. I need to build the muscle of creating content. I need to get used to the process and the routine of creating and putting out content regularly to establish my expertise in my field and to also help level up the industry. So, I try to make my content educational. I try to make it entertaining and fun. I try to bring a viewpoint that is unique to me because, of course, my 24 years of experience in the industry is a kind of a unique lens on the news and punditry of our industry. And I've learned through my consulting engagements and all those things, that's the one thing that no one can replicate, even if they're in theory a competitor to you. They can't replicate your exact experience set, and that's what differentiates you. And so I think that, well, I'm assuming also that therapists sometimes think the only way I can produce content is video, or the only way I can produce content is maybe a audio podcast or whatever it might be. But actually, there are mediums out there for whatever you are most comfortable, whatever format of content you are most comfortable creating. There are platforms out there that support that type of content.
I love that. In my coaching all the time, because I get a lot of therapists that want to have multiple income streams. So not only be a therapist, but also content creators or product creators that they're selling to other therapists or, you know, their clientele that meet their niche or whatever. And that's the question over and over. It's like, Kim, I am not going to go live on a video in a Facebook group ever. It's not going to happen. If I can't do that, I'm stuck already. Like it's I'm never going to be able to make money from this. And, you know, I love that advice. So what do you advise? Like, how do they find it? Like, how do they like tune into what type of content they're good at or they want to do? And then how do they put it out there? You know, do you have advice around that?
Well, the first thing I would say is you're probably going to be shit at it at the start, no matter what.
Yeah.
The thing is, that's not a problem because when you first start out, you won't have an audience. And so, so, you know, as you learn and as you get better and as you put out a greater volume of content, so your audience will grow alongside that. And so therefore, by the time you've got a decent sized audience, you'll probably be pretty darn good at creating the type of content you want to create.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think most people know whether they're comfortable writing long form blog articles, whether they're happy writing short form written social media posts, whether they want to be on Reddit, whether they want to be on Medium, most people know whether they're comfortable with video, audio, written form. Most people know which thing they're the most comfortable starting with. What I would say continually dip your toes slowly but surely your comfort zone. When I first started my podcast, and we're now at over 400 episodes of my podcast, when I first started out the podcast, it was audio only because it was easier to do the audio only piece versus having to do the video and the video editing and the publishing in both audio and video. And it was just easier for me to get up and running in audio format. It wasn't because I was uncomfortable on video. It was just because there was more effort required to produce video at a high level, right? Mm-hmm. Now, with modern technology and Zoom and Riverside FM and all sorts of other technology, now recording video, editing video is just as easy as doing audio only. And I saw the writing on the wall about 2 years ago or 3 years ago when I started adding video to my podcast. I saw the writing on the wall because all of the short form video platforms were taking off. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, short video clips, 60 seconds or less, were absolutely taking off. Now, you can't really make teaser clips out of an audio-only podcast. And I thought, geez, I really need to add video to this podcast so that I have the base material required to slice and dice those video podcasts up into short teaser clips that I can promote across the short video platform. So it was well down the track that I added video later on. So to get up to speed on video editing and all that sort of stuff. And so I just slowly expanded the types and formats of content I was putting out. When I first started out 8 years ago, I just simply published long form written posts every single day on LinkedIn. And I literally published a post a day, 7 days about solid.
Wow.
And I've now got over 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. And, I don't have to do any outbound marketing at all for my consulting service now because I've got a strong personal brand and I'm putting out content on a regular basis that people want to listen to and hear from. And so I think that would be my advice. Start where you're most comfortable, but don't stay there. Expand and adapt and grow and dabble and play and test and try different platforms and contextualize your content for that platform. Because when I'm on Instagram, I could literally have Instagram and LinkedIn open on my phone at the same time. But when I flip between those apps, my mindset of what I expect and the experience changes on Instagram versus LinkedIn. So I try very, very hard to contextualize my content for the platform it's being put to.
I love that. And just that point that it's an evolution, right? You start one place and it's slowly, you get more comfortable, you grow bigger and you like, oh, maybe I need a podcast editor now. Okay, maybe I need, somebody to help me write my content if I'm not a great copywriter. You start to expand so you can scale and continue to grow, even in the areas maybe you're not comfortable with, bringing in help to help you with that stuff too.
Well, and I just added 4 weeks or 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I just added a Spanish language podcast to my podcast. And I use HeyGen. I use HeyGen, which is an AI-based video translation, but it doesn't doesn't just translate your videos. It does face and lip sync as well. So it literally looks like I'm speaking Spanish. And it will translate multiple voices, multiple avatars. And so I now, at the final editing output, I will take the finalized video from my English channel. I'll upload that to HeyGen. I'll have it translated into Spanish. And I now have Spanish language channels for my podcast on YouTube, on Rumble, and across all the podcast engines. And so this is just another way I'm expanding my audience reach or potential audience reach by creating a Spanish version of my podcast. And it looks like
amazing.
I'm genuinely speaking Spanish. Now, I looked into this about ago with HeyGen. It was so expensive. I released 3 podcasts a week, and it was going to cost me. It was going to cost me like $20,000 a year with an all-you-can-eat $69 a month plan.
Oh my gosh, I'm going back to HeyGen because I have another podcast. It's called Run Your Private Practice with AI. I'm obsessed with AI. Anybody that knows me knows I'm totally obsessed with it. And I tried to figure out Jen, like trying to get a lifelike avatar. And everyone I tried, just the mouth was like over a little too far. The eyes looked just not right. So you're saying that you've got a great avatar on HeyGen now?
It's not actually an avatar. It's me. I upload a video. I upload a video of the original English version of my podcast. Me and my interviewee. It translates us in our voice into Spanish and matches lips and our face to where it looks like we're actually speaking language.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I got to go back over to HeyGen.
Yeah, it's a great platform.
So excited about it. It's so expensive. Yeah.
It was literally only a month ago that they released the all-you-could-eat, a maximum of 1-hour videos, fully translated, an unlimited number of translated videos a month.
Wow. That's incredible. I'm definitely going back over there. Thank you. Managing a private practice can be challenging. There are obstacles at every turn, from navigating the credentialing process to managing finances to finding new clients. That's where Alma can help. Alma is on a mission to simplify access to mental health care by focusing first and foremost on supporting clinicians. How? For starters, Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance and get credentialed within 45 days and access enhanced reimbursement rates with major payers. Alma handles all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Members also get access to HIPAA-compliant EHR tools like intake forms, progress notes, and treatment planners, plus administrative support. So you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great mental health care. Visit helloalma.com/Kim to learn more. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started. And that's another part of this, like branding and evolving and growing your business and scaling, and also being able to just like live a fun life, living in different countries, is the use of AI. I'm so excited about it, just how AI is incorporating into our life and helping us build these businesses, maybe with skills and systemization that we couldn't do before. You know, it's becoming way more affordable to bring in tools like HeyGen. I use Descript and their AI stuff.
I use Descript.
It's amazing. Well. I love Descript. So anyway, I have to have you on the Run Your Private Practice with AI podcast too.
Yes.
To talk about I use AI.
One other tip is I use Blogger, which is an AI form that converts my video content from YouTube into full-length blog articles.
Amazing.
And so I do that too, and I upload that to my website as, you know, and it's great long-form content that Google indexes. And then what I do, I embed the full video of the full version of that podcast video episode. I embed the YouTube video base of the article, so if they want to see the whole video, they can see it. So repurposing of content is also a very, very big deal in allowing you to scale.
I love that so much. And there's so many tools. Every day there's a new tool I'm seeing that like revolutionize basically my entire business using like AI technology. So super excited to hear you talking about that. Anybody listening, you know, AI is the future. And if you're trying to do this with multiple income streams and be a therapist and still see your clients, but just live all over the place, AI is the answer to this. A lot of the streamlining and making it a lot easier. Like you said, just repurposing a lot of content in a lot of different ways so you can be all over the place at once. Yeah. Thanks for talking about that. I love that. Gosh, there was something I was going to ask you about when you said it earlier. Now I can't remember. Oh, give us some tips on if you're trying to put things out there to the world and people don't want to hear what you're saying, you're not really the thought leader you think you are. What do you do about that? What if you just got this passion to like scale and share to the world, but nobody's listening? Do you have any tips around how to like reimagine what you're trying to do or try to get audience feedback to find that like perfect niche that you can scale and put out to the world and people want to hear about?
I'm a big believer in the fact that your vibe attracts your tribe. So there is a cohort out there somewhere that will be interested in your content. You just have to find them, and it's more like moths to a flame. You have to continue producing in a niche that I think you can speak competently about, because there's nothing worse than seeing someone talk about something just for the likes and the views, and you realize this person actually doesn't know anything about what they're talking about. They see that this is the latest hot trend to talk about, and the only reason they're talking about it, not because they know it, not because they love it or passionate about it, but because they think it's going to go viral. And those people, oftentimes when they chase trends, it's really difficult to stay on the cusp of every new trend. So for me, what I've tried to do is I've just tried to stay really true to my roots, and eventually those people that are interested in the same things as me have found me. And it's taken years. It's taken years to build up that audience. It's something that happens overnight. Sure, you may have some, one video that goes viral or something like that explodes your subscribers quickly. But oftentimes I find that virality is a double-edged sword. It looks really good on paper, but oftentimes the people that you pull in on that single viral video are people that won't necessarily like the rest of your content. And so they won't necessarily be committed for the long term. They won't be part of your tribe. And so I actually believe that slow and steady, consistent growth is actually, for the long term, it actually has longer term benefits.
So smart. Makes so much sense. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I see people out there all the time. I'll follow them, because there's one thing I'm interested in. And then you find out later, it's like, wait, why am I following this person? I have no idea even what they are. I don't even relate to them at all. There's that one like funny meme that they did that I was like, oh, this is great,
Yeah, they were the internet version of a one-hit wonder band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. And I also like that they will come to you. Your audience will find you. And what you said earlier too is it doesn't hurt to like figure out where they hang out, where they live, and then go there and try to put content there. I mean, that's super helpful. With therapists that are just trying to market their private practices, it's like, where does your ideal client live? If you're like, really into like geeky, type analogies in your practice, and that's the type of client you want to work with, you need to go to like a comic book festival or something, and advertise there. Like, try to find where they live so you can market and brand to them too. Yeah.
Well, I think also participate in those places. Like, one of the reasons why I think that my cost is because I'm part of my community. I'm part of the e-commerce community. I work in e-commerce every single day. I consult to it. I talk about it. I have friends in the industry, colleagues in the industry. My guests are all specialists in the space. So, I'm part of the demographic that I'm creating content for. It's not like I'm trying to pitch into a demographic that I don't exist in myself. I'm actually creating content that I would want to consume as a consumer of in our space. And so that's also, I think, important, because it's really hard to produce content for a cohort that you're not part of, that is completely outside of your interest base, your knowledge base, your expertise, or whatever. It's very difficult. So try to produce. I mean, first of all, if you're not producing content joy making, you'll never stick at it. So when I produce content, I produce it first for me. I'm producing it because I enjoy it. The side benefit is hopefully it will help other people and draw them to me.
And it's authentic, and people can feel that. They can tell that it's authentic, that it's not just a trend chasing, like you said.
Well, and that's why I have 400 plus episodes of the podcast, because I actually love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I hired a social media person to help me, and she just didn't get it, So she was putting stuff out there for me, because it's like, I don't have the time to create all this stuff. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this just isn't me. This isn't how I would talk. This isn't the meme I would pick. Like, none of it. I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to have to do this content myself. It's just got to come from me, from my heart, my like authentic place, like my day-to-day like struggles that I'm even going through, so I can share how I dealt with it to help other people, that whole thing. So yeah. So I know we're getting close to time, but just how about a couple of tips around like nomadism? Like what have you found that's super helpful for like time zones and, managing, trying to run a business online? Is there anything you can give tips around that to people listening that are going to be trying to do the same thing?
Certainly using tools like I was using Calendly for a very long time in terms of booking. It converts where my current time zone is into whoever wants to book it. It shows the times in their time zone in terms of my availability, so I don't have to think about time zones anymore. Now Google has released, because I use G Suite for my business to run my business, and Google out with effectively an equivalent of Calendly, and it's just part of Google Calendar. And so I've saved some money and I've given away Calendly, and now I have a publishable link to my calendar, which I put into my signature of my emails, and I publish it everywhere so that people can book directly in my calendar. And it does the same thing. It shows my availability in their time zone when they go to book, regardless of where they are in the world. So I think that's a biggie. Second one is when you travel, at least for us, we traveled all around Mexico. We spent all of 2023 traveling around Mexico. We did 20,000 kilometers last year traveling around Mexico. And so we covered a lot of ground. And we had to, when my wife was all the places we would stay, whether it be an Airbnb or a hotel or an apartment or whatever it is, we had to think about three things. It had to be dog friendly because we have a dog. It had to have a place to park our car because we were driving. And it had to have decent internet. Those were the three major considerations. And finding all three of those things available in a location is difficult. It's very, very difficult. So, and oftentimes you will find that even if they say they've got internet, especially if you're traveling in a developing country like Mexico, the internet, what they call good, is oftentimes not that good. And so what we found is we had to have backups. We had 5G that we could hotspot to, and even sometimes then we had to reschedule things. You just have to be flexible at the end of the day. Yeah. Sometimes I'd get ready to record a podcast episode, and the internet was so clean I couldn't record video, right? And so I have to reschedule. And I think it's just about having compassion for your guests, compassion for your clients, and then having compassion for yourself, that some of these things are going to be outside your control and you're going to have to be a little bit flexible. And from a time zone perspective, that actually has become easier now that I'm back in North America. New Zealand is at the opposite end of the day. And so, I was oftentimes consulting really late at night or really early in the morning. So actually it's become easier now that I'm back in North America and in a more friendly time zone. That's actually become easier for me, but really just had to gear my business around wherever I happened to be at that time. I just had to really be flexible with my clients and say, well, look, one of the prices to pay for the level of freedom we enjoy by being able to be nomadic is I got to work around my clients' time zones and availability. And sometimes that means a call at 11 o'clock at night. It just kind of is what it is. And you just have to be ready to accept that as one of the, I wouldn't necessarily call it a downside, but one of the challenges of the freedom that comes along with being a nomad.
Absolutely. I love that so much. I still get so stressed out when the internet doesn't work and I have to cancel. Oh, it just, I want to be that like Zen, like, it's fine, we're going to reschedule, but that has been the hardest part for me. Just like random places and just unreliable internet. There's literally nothing you do. Hotspot doesn't work. Place you're in there, it doesn't work. The hotel is like throttling you. You can't even get anything. I mean, it's just, that really stresses me out. But I love that reinforcement around you got to just go with the flow. It's okay to cancel, and, accepting about myself. Because I guess one of my values is, I don't like to cancel. I don't like to be late. I always show up. I'm reliable. That's like my thing, so it's hard. It's been hard for me to adapt to that. But I'm glad to hear you say, anybody listening, embrace it.
Well, Starlink Roam can help too. So, the challenge with us was that in many of the places that we stayed, there was no place to put Starlink out. Like if we're in an apartment, what am I going to do? Hang it out the window? I don't have access to the roof. I don't have access to a courtyard if I'm on floor 3. Yep. So it won't work for everyone. But if you are operating out of, say, a fifth wheeler or a caravan or a motorhome, for example, or something like that, Starlink Roam can be a solution. And we actually have Starlink. We've bought a townhouse in Puebla, and we have Starlink now. We didn't want any terrestrial crap that they offer here, so we got Starlink. It's on our roof, and it's amazing. Starlink is absolutely incredible. I can't recommend it highly enough. And if you are in a caravan or something where you can have the Starlink Roam service, that is kind of the answer to all your prayers, because it covers like
Amazing.
98 or North America.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah. I have a Facebook group called the Traveling Therapist Facebook group, and people are always just raving about Starlink in there. And I've wondered, because I heard there's like a smaller mobile version, I've wondered, like, can we fit it in a carry-on and just take it with us? If it doesn't work, fine. But if it does, great. But just like plop it up on a roof somewhere. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, definitely their mobile version is, I know a lot of people that use it. Rave about
cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm still thinking we should probably look into that. Yeah. Amazing tips. Thank you. So great. So how do people reach you? Like, do you work B2B, right? Like you would help like a therapist with a branding issue to help with ecommerce and that sort of thing. Do you work with therapists? I'm not even sure what you offer that way.
Not really. I'm focused on B2B brands selling physical products that are selling like manufacturers, wholesalers, and distributors, helping set up helping architect their digital channels and their commerce solution stack. And I work doing around 20 million plus a year in revenue, and are looking to rapidly scale their business. And so I go in and I do deep dive discovery into their business. I do technical discovery, operational discovery inside their business. I help them with data engineering, help them with process engineering, process design, etc. And then I help them with platform search and select, partner search and select, the whole 9 yards. So that's really what I specialize in. And I also consult to agencies for B2B that want to build a B2B practice. I consult to investors that want to invest in space, as well as vendors that sell software into the space. I consult with them as well. So it's a very fun part of it's a very fun practice to be a part of. If you're learning more about e-commerce and just general interest in e-commerce, check out my podcast, The E-commerce Edge with Jason Greenwood. It's on all podcast engines and YouTube. And then I'm on LinkedIn, and I publish probably of all channels. That's probably apart from the podcast, that's where I publish content most frequently. Jason Greenwood on LinkedIn. And then, not necessarily relevant to your audience, but my website is greenwoodconsulting.net.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time. These are great tips. It's going to help everyone listening immensely that are trying to do both brand and do the digital nomad thing. Yeah.
Totally. My pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.